Celiac disease is very different than the other inflammatory bowel diseases because we know what causes the inflammation or the destruction to the bowel. It's an allergy to gluten, which is the protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. And so when that protein is introduced into the gut, it causes the villi of the intestine to break down. And the more that happens, the more difficult someone will find it to digest gluten-containing foods, but also non-gluten-containing foods. Because if you're constantly, causing this destruction to the gut, it comes to a point where you can't digest other foods as well. So a lot of times people who are newly diagnosed with celiac disease complain of just generally having indigestion or diarrhea without being able to recognize what exactly is causing those symptoms. And through a biopsy, blood work, we're able to identify the celiac disease. So in a patient with celiac disease, the only answer is to follow a gluten-free diet. And by removing gluten from the diet, the bowel is able to recover and the person can go on, living a normal life. There's tons of gluten-free products available. So patients can find cereals, cookies, muffins, breads, anything they would normally eat that's wheat, they can find in a gluten-free version. There are many resources online where people can find information about celiac disease and the gluten-free diet. Places like celiac.org or through eatright.org, you can find many websites that are trustworthy. There is then actually a new iPhone app through the ADA, I believe, that is called the Gluten Detective, and it helps when you're walking around and in the grocery store to find products that are gluten-free. Some people are sensitive enough to gluten that they can't use gluten-containing products such as lotions and makeups. And so there are now lines of both of those items, of all cosmetics, that are gluten-free. And the most important thing is to call the manufacturer, ask them whether there's gluten in a product, and just be vigilant about that, because you can't always trust what you see on a label, even if it's not listed as an ingredient. You want to always be safe. If a food item says gluten-free but is processed in a plant that might produce products with wheat, you don't want to eat that product because cross-contamination is a big issue. In fact, that's one of the biggest questions I get is, what's the deal with oats? Because a lot of people are familiar with the fact that oats are gluten-free, but it's still usually recommended to stay away from them in a gluten-free diet. And the reason for that is the high percentage of oats that are contaminated with wheat because of where they're processed. So you do want to buy oats only that say gluten-free.